World Trade Organization, which is centered on Beijing's alleged coercion of Lithuania in 2021. Now, according to a statement circulated to WTO members, the bloc has emphasized that it was abandoning the case considering the key objectives behind this dispute have been met and relevant trade has now resumed. This case had risen after Lithuania permitted the opening of a controversially named quote-unquote Taiwanese representative office in Vilnius. Soon after the office was opened, Lithuanian exporters found they could no longer ship products to mainland China, and the country's details had been wiped from official Chinese customs system. Now, the virtual wipeout led to the European Commission to launch a case against China at the WTO. Meanwhile, China has claimed that Chinese people just did not want to buy goods from the Baltic country, which had made concerted efforts to grow ties with Taipei. Stay with us on the broadcast is Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goyal. Interesting developments as far as this particular case is concerned. EU has now terminated this dispute. We do know that the EU is also trying to ink its own trade agreement with China. Interestingly, it also hosted the Taiwanese vice president recently, something which has not gone down well with Beijing. Do you think then this is some sort of some sort of an olive branch that the EU is now extending to China in terms of letting go of this particular case to make sure that the trade deal is catalyzed?
Quite right, really speaking, and therefore I think it was expected long time ago that EU eventually, in the interest of its own agreement with China, would sooner or later withdraw from the case from the WTO. It has done now. I do not know if Lithuania is actually happy with the EU stance that they have taken. But in the larger scheme of things, when they want an agreement with China and Taiwan, is again something that, if you remember that Taiwan has depended upon security agreement with the USA and the European countries really. So European Union will not abandon Taiwan simply because of technology imports also. Taiwan is an important source of technology. And Taiwan is also an important link in terms of connectivity into the area. So I don't think EU can abandon Taiwan, even though if it comes to the crunch, they probably will bow down to the pressure from China, even in the case of Taiwan. And what has happened was actually long expected, that they will eventually give in to the pressure of China, and it has happened. Yes.
Indeed. As far as the EU is concerned, considering the fact that they're still in talks, do you think China will now accept this gesture by the EU and resume its negotiations in a rather vigorous manner as well? Because, the US under Donald Trump, even though Trump has been, as I stated earlier, has been peddling the G2 narrative, he's been very, his strategic position at large and his policies have been rather flip-flopping. He is known for taking, 180-degree turns in an instant.
Yeah. Absolutely, Pia. I'm afraid what I think may not be the common view among experts, but the fact is that Europe is both economically and strategically at a weaker position now, both vis-a-vis China and vis-a-vis the USA. We have seen how Europe had to essentially accept Trump's positions even on Ukraine. Even though NATO is prepared to intervene in the case of Ukraine, but USA will not let it do. And therefore, Europe will have to import armaments from USA if they want to support Ukraine. So what I'm saying here is that European Union, if you look at the whole balance of forces, they probably will actually accept China for negotiations on the FTA. And Trump himself really would advise Europe to go soft on China. So on the whole balance, what we are seeing is really emergence of China, both in Asia and in Europe, in Pacific, as well as Antarctic, as a major force challenging the USA. And we should see more developments in that respect in coming future.
All right, sir, requesting you to stay on with us. We're tracking some other very crucial developments. We're now learning that Tajik authorities and the Chinese embassy in Tajikistan have stated that 5 Chinese nationals have been killed and 5 others have been injured in the country in attacks launched from neighboring Afghanistan over the past week. Chinese embassy in Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan, has advised Chinese companies and personnel to urgently evacuate the border area. The embassy has added that Chinese citizens had been targeted in an armed attack close to the Afghan border last week. Earlier, it had emphasized that another border attack, which Tajik authorities stated had involved drones, in fact dropping grenades, had killed 3 Chinese citizens. Stay with us on the broadcast is Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goyal. Interesting development because we've seen such kind of attacks take place in Pakistan earlier, where the CPEC project is being carried out through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Tajikistan, we do know, is a part of the BRI as well. China does have its interests using Tajikistan as a gateway into Central Asia and then beyond into Europe as well. What do you make of these attacks against Chinese citizens? China is, of course, pointing fingers at Afghanistan, but what exactly is the larger game over here?
You see, beyond Pakistan was a different case altogether when Taliban government from Afghanistan, they were attacking on the border, KPK border as well, and they across the Durand line. There was a whole lot of political thing across into Tajikistan. I have not really read the news so far, and therefore I'm speaking purely as a kind of an analyst. It's going to be a different kind of a thing altogether. Tajikistan is part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Yes. China is very keen to develop both for connectivity and strategic approach into the north and towards both Arctic as well as to Europe. Tajikistan is an important step in the direction, and therefore what happens in Tajikistan is important to China in terms of its own political relationship networking in the area. My guess is that when Taliban fighters attacked Chinese across in Tajikistan, it was probably to provoke a reaction from China in that respect, and China will have to carefully evaluate how far they can go, because this is not happening in Tajikistan. Tajikistan also will have to react, and I've not seen any reaction from them so far. So let us see what happens and how does Tajikistan react. But that's an interesting development, and we will need to watch over it.
Absolutely interesting, because Afghanistan is also a part of the BRI, and Afghanistan, of course, we do know it's been making headlines because of its tiff with Pakistan, yes. The fact that Donald Trump has been eyeing the Bagram air base as well. Ambassador Goyal, I'd like to thank you for taking our time, of course, sharing your perspective, your insights into all of these developments. But